Welcome once more to the inner sanctum of the magic awning wood with me, Clive Davis, and him over there.
Ron. Hi.
Now,
I'm getting into character for our rat special.
Yes, just in case you think Ron's being weird. Well, you're right.
I'm right.
Yeah, but with good reason, because yes, we got stop that, Ron. That's horrible.
You dirty rat.
So, what did we? Why are we doing this? What was the last film? Oh yeah,
Ratcatcher.
Ratcatcher. Right. So, yes, algorithm machine on, and we're both responding to Ratcatcher, and we both went via the rat. In my case,
The almighty rat
of unknown origin, Canadian film from 1983, directed by George P. Cosmatos, who would later go on to make the Stallone films Rambo First Blood Part 2 and Cobra.
Which I've always thought was a kind of a strange name. How can it be the First Blood if it's Part 2? You know, shouldn't it be Second Blood?
Ron,
am I alone here? Huh?
Ron's working on his stand-up routine.
It needs some work, but I'm working on the punchline. But
get in there. Hey, what's
Rambo Second Blood?
Huh?
Rambo First Blood, not the first part? No.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Not so much First Blood?
Yeah.
Okay, anyway.
I've been with Ron. You've been great. See ya.
Try the fish. I'll be here all week.
Yes, alas you will. So his son as well. His son is now kind of a bit of a cult success, right? He's the guy who made that film. What the fuck was it called, with Nicolas Cage and Andrea Riseborough? It was A Girl's Name is the title of the film, which I'm now blanking on. And everyone lost their shit about it. It's the one where Nicolas Cage has like a chainsaw fight.
And when was it? What year?
Recently, like within the last couple of years. Not really,
It's a girl's name?
Yes. Not not May, not Maple, not Mary, not
Mandy?
Yes, there we go. Mandy, yeah.
Oh yeah. Panos Cosmatos. What a name. Panos Cosmatos.
Yeah, that's his son. I think it's a Greek name, I think. Is it Greek or was he? Yeah, I think he was Greek.
Sounds Greek, yeah. Or space alien.
See the stand-up routine.
I'm on fire today.
You'll be working on it throughout.
I've never heard of this movie, Mandy. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah, is it any good?
It's kind of fun. I mean, it's not quite as awesomely out there as some hipsters would have you believe, but it's kind of fun.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, directed by and written by Brian Taggart, who also wrote Visiting Hours, and based on the novel The Visitor by Chauncey G. Parker III, which I've also read. I think I've got that around here somewhere, and don't remember anything about it, but I think it was pretty good. And yeah, so this is Of Unknown Origin, starring Peter Weller in, I think, probably his first kind of major starring role.
Yeah, pre-RoboCop.
Yep. And he's a kind of young yuppie executive type on his way up in well, it's supposed to be New York City, right? But I think it was filmed in Montreal.
Montreal, yeah.
And he's very proud of his kind of he's done up his own kind of brownstone apartment, right, in which he lives with his wife Shannon Tweed, who later of kind of direct-to-video erotic films fame.
But she had been the Playboy Playmate of the Year, I think, already.
Yes,
Which is why she was famous, right? So I think she. Yeah.
And his wife and his son, they go out of town for a little while to visit her father, and he's got to land some big account or something at his work, right? But he's driven to distraction by a rat infestation, or as it turns out, in particular,
Not really an infestation, just one rat.
one huge, big fucking rat.
Devious, yeah, like sinister rat. Yeah.
Yes, and yeah, basically over the course of the film, it basically turns into like a rat Moby Dick, right? With Peter.
Yeah, and it actually is. Yeah, it has several like overt references to Moby Dick, where he's uses the book to slam the thing, and then also he's watching it on TV and stuff, right? So.
Oh, that's not Moby Dick. The
wasn't it?
No, what he's watching on TV is The Old Man and the Sea with Spencer.
Oh, okay. Which is kind of Moby Dick.
Yeah, you can see
in content or thematically, right? So
yeah, you can kind of see the psychology is there.
Connection, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is pretty much it plot wise. It's Peter Weller versus a big rat. And he basically tears his house and life to pieces and gets obsessed with this rat and rat.
Yeah, well, because he's sort of set up a little bit at the beginning as he's a bit of this kind of fastidious, kind of neat freak. You know, he likes things kind of exactly the way it is, and he's really takes pride. He mentions several times about how he renovated the entire house himself, and he's done everything. He's very kind of like, this is the, he wants everything kind of like in its place and the way it goes, and he just sort of gradually over the movie kind of comes unraveled, to the point where he basically just destroys his life over trying to get this rat, right? So yeah.
He has a really good scene where he's at like this dinner party, right? And he just
the dinner party scene, yeah, that's
good. Which is the so yeah, on that side it's RoboCop versus Rat.
Robo-Rat. Oh, and, there we go. I just made the newest franchise, Robo-Rat.
There we go. Your move, Rat.
There will be cheese.
And yeah,
I gotta laugh at that one.
It's a lot of fun for me. At least I enjoy this film quite a bit. I like Peter Weller in general. Of course we spoke about him before when we did Buckaroo Banzai, but this is even pre-Buckaroo Banzai, right?
Yeah.
What did you make of? Had you seen this film before?
No, I was not aware of this movie. I was Peter Weller a fan too, from RoboCop and Naked Lunch and all that kind of stuff, right? But I wasn't really aware of this movie, which is too bad. I had a great time with this movie. It was super fun. Yeah, it was. I mean, he'd done a couple small things like Kentucky Woman and Shoot the Moon, I guess, and Just Tell Me What You Want, Pushing Sundance, The Early Days, a couple of small things, but yeah, I guess it was his first kind of starring role. I thought it was there's a couple parts where I wanted it to go a little further, but like I thought, like as I was mentioning, he sort of is set up to be this sort of fastidious, kind of like neat freak guy, and I don't think they really went far enough with that. I think it was like a little bit like the son messes up the carpet. He's like, hey, make sure that carpet is not messed up like that, right? And like son is doing like the cereal, kind of mixing up all the cereal, looking for the toys and stuff, and he kind of like just says, no, don't do that. But I kind of wish that they'd gone a little bit further, making him a little bit like making the fall harder, making him like really like this I'm really almost like anal retentive about things. So it was a little bit kind of loose. They kind of set it up, but it was almost like a half-assed looseness.
I think you might be onto something there, actually, because I have to admit, until you kind of brought it up here, I never even considered that he was particularly fastidious. But now that you've mentioned it, you're right. That is exactly what they're trying to do. But obviously, they didn't do it enough.
They didn't do it far enough. That's what I mean. So I was like, I see what they're doing there, but yeah, I wish they'd gone just a little bit further, making them really kind of anal, which makes the fall harder, right? So which would have made it a little bit better. But anyway, I thought the whole process, or like the journey with the rat, was really well done. I thought it was, you never see the rat for what it is. It's always close ups. It's always like these kind of like
close-ups as well.
horrible, like the teeth and the feet and like it's really like set up like a real monster. Like even though it's just a rat, but it becomes like a sentient, like it's becomes really like this rat is really out to get him. Like it's almost like it's not just a rat that he's sort of trying to get, but it's like this rat is it's like a, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, but it's like a it's an evil rat. Like he's like like has like an intelligence that is trying to like torment this poor guy, right? So and so it becomes this real like kind of standoff, right? And his life gradually falls apart. Luckily his wife and son have gone away, and so they're not around for this whole thing, for this kind of. But then he stops going to work, and he's people visit him. Couple of things. I didn't really need the whole kind of like love triangle thing where there's kind of like this thing with his secretary, where and the secretary comes over and she kind of cares about him, and then they have this kiss, but I don't know, I didn't think that was necessary. I don't know what the point of that was.
Awkward. It's
it was sort of seems shoehorned in a little bit, right? So, and especially when you got Shannon Tweed, he and Shannon Tweed, I mean, they set it up. They've got a very healthy, good relationship. So I didn't really see what the point of like adding a second love interest was. I mean, I think she could have been just sort of like a platonic friend or something. So, but that was one.
Yeah, no, I agreed. It doesn't really add anything one way or the other, does it?
It didn't. Yeah. So it was just sort of like, it was like, wait, where did that come from?
It's a Canadian film, so of course it's contractually obliged to have Maury Chaikin in, if that's how you pronounce it.
Maury Chaikin, I think.
Right,
Maury Chaikin. Yeah. So
kind of doing he's at his most Maury Chaikin.
Right? Maury Chaikin-ish. Yeah.
Just sitting there, smoke. I was thinking of you actually, because he was smoking and someone put out the cigarette, and like he's good at doing that. There's something about he just naturally looks like he's out to offend you in some way, doesn't he? He's got that kind of. I'm sure he's a lovely man in real life, but he's just got that kind of look about him.
He's dead now.
Looks obstinate, or he looks like the guy who's just there to
piss you off.
Yeah, in a slightly different way. But you know how like Ben Mendelsohn just always looks like he's just there to stir some shit, right?
It's funny because I saw we were watching what were they watching Ben Mendelsohn in just recently. He was what was I just watching him in? And he was he's the good guy, and it was really hard to see him as a good guy. What were we watching? Secret Invasion. He's in the Marvel universe, where he plays a Skrull, which is like it's like an alien race of these green guys that shapeshift, and so they live on Earth as humans, because they take the form of humans, whatever. And there's sort of
a TV series.
Yeah, it's a series just now. Yeah, but he's been in the Marvel universe a few movies, and now it's a TV series that's on right now with it's sort of like a Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson vehicle, and he's like this. Yeah, and he's the second. He's like Nick Fury's friend. He's like the good Skrull. And so he's like the good guy through the whole thing. But he's just looks so evil that it's hard to. I was like, right, I keep forgetting that he's supposed to be a good guy.
This looks like he wants to annoy you and poke you and.
Yeah. But because
any good Secret Invasion?
It's pretty good. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's very. It's not. It depends on how much you like Marvel. It's not like a kind of a traditional Marvel. It's very kind of more like a spy drama with people hiding out in different lots of like kind of subterfuge and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's pretty good.
Sorry to tangent, but I always ask Ron viewers, because Ron is my link to popular culture.
Pop culture that you don't care about, usually.
Well, I just kind of like to. Plus, you're a fairly trustworthy. Like, even though we have different interests in that regard, I can usually gauge what I'll think about something, in comparison to
is
to
what
you.
I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in that
yeah.
arena.
Yeah, I'd say it's a bit darker and more kind of grittier than some of the other Marvel stuff. So if you like kind of like spy kind of stuff, it's pretty fun. It's interesting, but it's hard. Also, it's you kind of have to know a little bit of the backstory because it's a little bit like a lot of times my wife and I are watching. We're like, who are they talking about? There's a lot of name dropping and place dropping that you don't know what they're talking about. So it's a bit obtuse sometimes. It's hard. It's hard to get.
Speaking of invasions, you'd be proud of me, Ron. I did try myself, without you holding my hand. I did try a bit of embracing pop culture myself. I tried that series Invasion for an episode or two.
Invasion.
Yeah, it's that one where it's a very slow moving kind of alien invasion. I can't remember. It's like a mini series. I don't know.
Never heard of it.
It's Netflix. Oh, really? Oh, okay. There we go.
Oh, is it any good?
I too slow for me. I gave up. I only watched it because Kutsuna Shioli's in it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, never heard of it.
A blonde Kutsuna Shioli, which was kind of an interesting new wrinkle.
I don't even know who that is.
Yes,
is that a man or a woman?
She's
a woman.
She's Japanese. She was I haven't seen it, but she have a major part in Deadpool 2. Was there like a lesbian hitman?
Sounds familiar.
She was.
Okay. Okay.
She was in the Japanese remake of Unforgiven.
She's Japanese.
Unforgiven, yeah. She was.
Okay.
She was the. If you remember in Unforgiven, a girl has her face mutilated, right, and then Clint Eastwood goes after. So she plays the character of the girl who in the Japanese remake of Unforgiven.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. Anyway, that was quite the tangent. We get back to
I think
rat
the
stuff.
reason we went off on a tangent is because I don't know how much there is to say about Knowledge.
Well, I have one more thing to say about it, which is that I really enjoyed the journey. I thought it was really good in terms of like building the tension and building up the idea of how it was how it kind of built like it was like it kind of built on each other, got higher and higher, the stakes went up. I like that. As I said, it wasn't perfect. I wish they'd made him more fastidious at the beginning. I wish they hadn't introduced that kind of second subplot about like the romance thing. And I also, one last thing is that I felt that it was a little bit anticlimactic when he finally finished it. It was sort of like finally he gets this kind of bat and he puts like all these nails and like metal things on it, and kind of like a Negan kind of bat a little bit. And that's a Walking Dead reference. I don't know if you got that one, but anyway, so he goes and he just basically smashes his house up trying to get this rat, and the rat's always just and then finally he gets it. He goes, and then sort of close up of him kind of hitting the rat. The end, right? And it's sort of like that. And then the family comes home and he's like, oh yeah, well I had a party or whatever.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's sort of like a little bit painted a little bit corner at the end, right? Like I weren't quite sure how to end it.
Yeah. I was hoping, because I mean it's a rat, right? So I was kind of hoping that a lot of it was kind of in his head, that he was just sort of like, I was hoping it was gonna be a little bit more psychological. And that they were like, maybe there was no rat after all, and it was the whole thing was just that kind of thing, or which it's possible, or at the very least he kind of like descends into madness and never gets out again. I mean, some there was something. I just wish there was a bit more of a
symbol of his atavistic kind of
exactly. Yeah. So
I think how annoying that actually would have been if it would have
been. Well, maybe not that specifically, but I wished it wasn't just sort of like a happy, like, hey, I got the rat and family's home, life goes on, right? Like it just felt a little flat for me.
It's a little abrupt, but like you said, it's so much fun to get there. Then you're like, okay, fair enough, whatever. I enjoyed it.
Well, I think that's what made it more disappointing, because it was so well plotted out throughout the whole rest of the movie that I just felt like it was sort of like the ending was sort of like, whatever, let's just finish it, right? So I wish a little bit more had been thought about the ending. That was just my little nitpicks about it, but generally it was a fun journey though, so I really enjoyed it. So
I can't for the life of me remember how the book ended. I read it a long while ago, but but definitely worth a look if you're a Peter Weller fan, certainly. I think it's because it's always fun to watch.
Yeah,
Peter Weller.
I think the other thing about this movie is that I was really surprised this movie is not more famous because it's quite well done. And it's like a proper like it was really like sort of gripping and a little bit I guess I guess you would consider it a horror. I don't know. Would it be a horror? I'm not sure. A thriller at the very least.
On the edges of horror, isn't it?
On the edges, yeah. So, but I mean, there's the one part where like it's under the bed, it's under the covers, and it's the big shape is coming towards us. Like shit like that. It's like whoa, like it makes you jump a little bit. Especially in '83, it would have made me would have made people like really kind of jump a bit. So I'm surprised it doesn't have a bigger reputation. I'd never even heard of this movie. So
it does have a bit of a cult reputation, but not a huge one, maybe. Yeah,
I would expect it to have like a more kind of mainstream reputation.
It's definitely better than. I mean, the reason I chose it is because I was thinking of rats and different rat films, and I was thinking, this is Head and Shoulders. This is probably the best rat film that jumped to mind in terms of this kind of thing. So anyway, but you had a different take on the rat. Different but same. different but lots of overlap, I guess, right? Yeah. So what did you go for then, Ron?
So I went for the 2003 movie Willard, the remake. I didn't choose the original.
I was going to ask you about this because I was curious why you went straight here as opposed to the original.
And the reason for that was and I was thinking ahead for our other podcast, this Septic Shock Road Trip, thinking that you might want to save that for like a California one or something. I'm not sure if you were planning to use it for California. So
no.
And also, I've never seen the original, so I had seen the Crispin Glover one. So I just thought it was worth a revisit. I thought so.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why.
Also, you've not seen.
I've never seen the original. No, so I hadn't seen
the sequel.
Or Ben. Yeah, I feel like maybe I saw Ben when I was young, but I don't remember anything about it. But I'd like to go back and watch them someday.
I don't think either of them are great films really, but I slightly prefer Ben to Willard because it has got some kind of exciting rat hunting scenes in the sewers and stuff. But
and the Michael Jackson song, of course.
Ben.
Ben, like Ben.
Of course, if you stick around to the end of Willard 2003 as well, you get to hear Crispin Glover sing it, right? What you've always wanted. I love that Ben, but if only Crispin Glover was doing a Michael Jackson imitation. I will get to this later on in another episode, but clearly Crispin's got something about Michael, right?
Yeah, I get. Yes, yeah, that's true. Yeah. So, So anyway, this is 2003, Crispin Glover, written and directed by Glenn Morgan, and based on the '71 screenplay by Gilbert Ralston.
Based on the book Ratman's Notebooks, right? By
Ratman Notebooks.
What's his name? Someone else whose name I'm forgetting. Stephen Gilbert.
Stephen Gilbert, right?
Which again isn't. I mean, have you? I don't suppose you happen to have read Ratman's Notebooks. No. Again, I mean, I quite enjoyed Ratman's Notebooks, but I think the problem with all these Willard films, just from the source material, is it's just not very convincing. Like, in terms of his control of the rats and like that's at the because the original book is it's a British setting.
Okay.
And they changed it to the States for obviously of these versions. Glenn Morgan, who wrote Final Destination, and the third one, I think, and also directed that not very good Black Christmas remake. The first remake from not that more recent. Wasn't there a more recent Black Christmas remake I haven't seen?
Possibly, yeah, sounds familiar. I think so. Yeah, he did the
name from the Twilight films, isn't it? Right, I think.
Right, something. Yeah, that sounds familiar. So, but he also was like a writer producer, like on the Twilight Zone reboot. Yeah, and the X-Files and that kind of thing. So he's in that kind of.
He also wrote actually a film I really like, and I'm hoping to talk to you about it one day. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Have you ever seen a film from the 80s called The Boys Next Door with Charlie Sheen and Maxwell Caulfield? They basically,
No, I don't think so.
he wrote that as well. That's a really interesting film.
He wrote it?
Yeah, yeah. That's an interesting film with young Charlie Sheen and Maxwell Caulfield. Basically, just a couple of kind of psychopaths, kind of learning.
Are you sure he wrote it? It doesn't seem to be on his writing list.
The Boys Next Door, yeah, way down 85.
Are you sure it was a writer or just like a producer? No, he doesn't have a writer. His writing credit in 85 was no apparent motive.
Oh, okay. I might be wrong
Maybe
about
that. You may have mixed him up with somebody.
Maybe. You keep talking about Willard and I'll look it up.
Right. Okay. Well. Anyway, so Willard.
Yes, you did write it. Yes, you did write it. I'm wondering if it's you have it as another title or something. 90. Yeah, no apparent motive is the Australian title.
Oh, okay, that's why. Okay,
that's your internet.
Yeah, here it
is set to Australian mode for some reason.
Sometimes my MTV does that. Yeah, it changes the titles for some reason. So, okay, right, okay.
Actually, I didn't realize he co-wrote it with James Wong, right? Who's also famously of the Final Destination franchise. Right. They go all the way back to the mid 80s. I didn't realize.
Right, James Wan, yeah, who's now like he's the Conjuring guy, right? So.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, Conjuring and Annabelle, right? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, back to Willard. So Willard is also a guy versus rats, or a guy with rats, anyway. So he played Will. So Crispin Glover. Sorry. Anyways, as well, also co-starring E. Lee Ermey.
Ali Ermey.
Ermey.
Ermey, I think, yeah.
Ermey, yeah, or R. Lee Ermey. It's hard to say his name. R.Lee Ermey.
It is a difficult,
like a tongue twister.
Yes.
R. Lee Ermey, who's of course always awesome to watch. I love R. Ermey though.
At his
from of course from
finest.
Yeah. So from of course Full Metal Jacket fame, right? And all the Toy Story movies, and also Laura Herring, and Jackie Burrows.
Yeah.
Who's one of those. She's always fun to watch when she pops up in those. And she was a Canadian actress, I believe, as well. So, or Canadian, right. British Canadian, right? I think
she plays the mother, right?
The mother, yeah.
Which a very weird, like in the book and the other film, the mother's slightly more like a hectoring presence, but a little bit more like normal. Whereas the mother in this one is like quite freaky from the get-go, right?
Yeah, she's real and decides to change his name. You're not Willard. No, your name is whatever. She changes his name.
Well, something that struck me as watching it this time, actually, just from the beginning, I was like, oh, okay, this is very, very, very Tim Burton. Tim
Burton, yeah, I said the same exact same thing. I was watching the credits at the beginning is like I was like, holy crap, I thought, is this not I had to look up. I was like, is this a Tim Burton movie? Because it's very, very, very inspired by Tim Burton style of this era, like the 90s, right? So like the Edward Scissorhands,
well, I think even Tim Burton,
Charlie Chocolate Factory, kind of.
Tim Burton himself would have moved on a little bit from this style by now,
right?
It was like Beetlejuice or something like that.
Yeah, Beetlejuice. Yeah, this very, very feels like that. Yeah. So even with like the music itself even sound like who's the Danny Elfman. Danny Elfman kind of Danny Elfman movie, right? It's music, right? So anyway, so so Willard is this sort of real kind of put upon putz with like an overbearing kind of weirdo mom. He's very kind of like a nervous kind of weird guy, and he works at this I guess an accounting firm. Is it what kind of company it is? I don't really know what they do.
Some import export or something. They manufacture something.
Some sort of manufacturing something or other. So kind of small company that his father used to own, or co-own, and then his father's since passed away, and the partner has taken over, and he only has a job there because his dad used to work there, but um the now the boss is like real like power harassment and like just like bullies him all the time and just yells at him and treats him like garbage. Are the army, yeah, and and yeah, and so
I'm wondering if is that a phrase that people like, I feel
power harassment. Yeah, I don't know.
I think, is it a Japanese phrase?
I don't. Is it or is it? No, I mean Japanese phrase is parahara. Pawahara. But I think it's based off I think English is still power harassment.
Well, obviously it's from power harassment, but I don't know. Do people actually say power harassment though?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the current English.
Been here too long.
Anyway, yeah, it's possible. Anyway, so bully. He's a bully, right? So he uses his power as a boss to bully his employees, especially Willard, right? Who he obviously doesn't like and is got it out for. Right. And so Willard is sort of like this, sort of like, I'll get those guys. He reminded me a little bit of like what's the guy from Office Space? With the stapler.
Yeah. I know who you mean.
Yeah.
There's a series of cartoons as well, isn't there? Like
yeah. Office Space. Yeah, where he plays the actor's what's his face? Stephen Root, Milton.
Milton, yeah, there we go.
Milton, yeah. So Stephen Root from Office Space, where he's like, I'll get those guys. I'll get my stapler. He's sort of like, he's sort of like this kind of like ineffectual kind of but resentful, right? Kind of about everything, right? So he goes home and he decides, I'm going to do something about this. This guy who's always bullying me and and so he realizes he's got.
All you have to say is, it's Crispin Glover, really.
It's Crispin Glover.
It's classic Crispin Glover, isn't it?
Playing Crispin Glover, yeah, basically, right? So, and and so anyway, he realizes his house has rats, so he finds a rat. I don't know, is it a mouse? Is Socrates a mouse? I think Socrates is probably a mouse. It's a white mouse.
Yeah,
it's much smaller and it's white, and he makes friends with this mouse. And then realizes that
in the book it is a rat. That's Socrates, right?
Socrates, yeah. So at least it's a smaller white rat or mouse, right? Yeah. And he makes friends with it and becomes his best friend because he's Crispin Glover and he has no other friends. And then slowly he finds out he's got other rats, especially this one rat named Ben, who names it because of Big Ben. Yeah. Big Ben, because he's big and he's the biggest rat, and he becomes Big Ben, right? So he calls him Ben. But Ben
he calls him Ben.
And Ben and he start this sort of contemptuous kind of relationship where it's sort of like they're kind of like battling for power, right? So and then little by little more and more rats come. It's almost like the Ben is like inviting more rats into his house and it's inviting the rats. And so eventually he's got basically this like an army of rats in his he can somehow, he sort of trains them. He goes through like a training montage where he kind of trains them to come inside the bags and into tear them to shreds or whatever he says. Yeah, rip it up, right? And so he wants to go get revenge on his boss, and he takes him, and once his boss is driving this really like expensive sports car, so he gets them to go into the garage and then gnaw off his tires so that he's late because he always
in the book it's very faithful to the book in that way, because I think that scene isn't in the 70 version, I don't think.
Oh, okay. And so then
in other ways it seems more of a remake of the film than it is of the book. Like the whole thing with the cat. There's a cat in the. I don't think there's a cat in the book.
Oh yeah. That was the first time we heard the song Ben. So they play Ben so
the very first time you hear it, there's a Muzak version.
Right.
Seen in the supermarket.
Right. Right. Yeah, supermarket. Right. So anyway, there's also a kind of a romance subplot where this kind of woman played by Laura Herring sort of is interested by Willard and kind of feels bad for him, and so she decides to kind of it's not really overtly romance, but she kind of
doesn't like to see him treated badly.
Feels bad for him, kind of, right? So kind of tries to help him, and so she goes over and strangely just forces him to take a cat. Just, here, I bought you a cat. Take this cat. And he's like, well, I don't really want the cat. Take the cat, right? She's like, forces it. And I was like, but what if he's like allergic to cats or something? Like, I don't know. That was a strange thing to force someone to do. So he goes, okay, I'll just put the cat here, and he puts the cat in there. And of course, the rats, and so the cat is like running from the army of rats, and they all kind of like,
doesn't end well.
Yeah,
no,
and doesn't end well. Yeah, so which is kind of similar to the scene from of Unknown Origins, where the rat, there's a cat, he buys a cat, and then the rat eats the cat and then mounts the cat above the refrigerator, right? So same kind of idea.
I suppose if you're making a film about killer rats and you want to slowly escalate, it's kind of
got to be
the way to go, right? The enemy.
It's got to show that, you know, between a cat and a rat, the cat should be stronger, but if the rat is able to get the leg up on the rat, then you know that you're it's a formidable rat, right?
Yeah.
Right, so so anyway, escalates up, and then the boss, our Lee Ermey, kills Socrates because they find him in the storage room, and then he decides to really just go nuts, and it just makes him kind of snap, and he kind of makes a tentative alliance with Ben and the rats, and then basically
to be honest, when you're watching the film, it's so in the book there's a more elaborate thing about him taking the rats to work, and it doesn't seem as the way they do it in the book. There's like this storeroom that no one goes into, and like it's all very safe, so it doesn't seem ridiculous. In the film, you just think, don't do that. That's a stupid fucking idea.
And it looks like it's the first time he's done it. That he does
it's like obviously a bad idea, right?
Yeah, it was a bad idea. So, and of course, so the woman goes in to get the whatever decorations or something, whatever, and then sees it, and so then the boss comes in and just you know, gets a stick and kills the rat, and then he decides, I'm gonna get revenge, and so then he uses his army of rats to kind of attack everybody. And
Ernest Borgnine in the 1970 version.
Right, yes. And so then it kind of escalates, and then there's police, and then they figure out that he's sort of this rat person. they go to arrest him, and they think that he's got something to do with the murder, and they go to get, and they realize that there's like his house full of rats, and so then they got to get like an exterminator, and then it kind of escalates, and then there's like a standoff between Willard and Ben, and then and then I don't know, you want to finish it off? How's it end? You finish it off. I've been talking a lot.
He gets killed by his own rats, right? Oh no, he doesn't actually.
He doesn't, right?
Right, no. That's what happens in the book and the other film. No, in this version, actually, this is the added wrinkle: is he ends up in a lunatic asylum, right?
Right.
And he has a little rat friend, and I suppose he's biding time, so maybe
to do it all over again, right?
Yeah, maybe, I guess.
That's the idea, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's what the ending of this one is. I can see why you forgot. I forgot most of it, to be honest with you. I mean. I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's not as if the original 1970 version's a great film either. So I don't feel as if they, ruined it with this remake or anything. But I don't know. What did you think of Willard 2003? Did it work?
I didn't hate it. I mean, it wasn't as good as Unknown Origin, of course, but I thought it was a good companion piece. I think with the two of them together, I thought they kind of worked together as good rat films. It was. I mean, I enjoyed it. It wasn't a slog for me. Not like the next episode that we're going to be doing. But yeah, I enjoyed seeing Crispin Glover do his thing. I think Crispin Glover is an interesting guy, so I enjoyed him doing his shtick and watching with the rats. I thought it was the production dollars were decent, and it was fine for me. It was fun. I liked R. Lee Ermey, and I thought it was an easy hour and a half watch. I thought so.
Yeah, I'm also a big Crispin Glover fan, and find that he kind of often rescues films for me as well. But I think my problem with this is I don't know. I felt Crispin Glover was holding back a bit, or was holding him back. Like he never. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's always very intense, right? But I felt a little bit as if, because I can imagine him being really interested in the material, and I know he's kind of, or at least was, obsessed with rats for a while, right? Like even
Yeah,
published.
he has his own book actually
Yeah,
called Rat Catcher, or How to
yeah.
Catch Rats, or something like that. Right?
If I remember correctly, I think he also used to have. I think it was part of like he had some sort of because he's had a few of these like one-man shows over the years, right? And if I remember the story correctly, it was something along the lines of he found like an old 19th century, like this Victorian rat catching manual or something, and he became obsessed with it, and then he developed this whole one-man show based around it, and then published this book, with experts and stuff. So, and yeah, so I can see why he would, and plus it's a perfect underdog character for him, right? It's a very crispy.
Right.
It should be hand in glove, right? It should work
Right.
well. But I feel as if they didn't quite let, like, there's a few scenes where you can tell they let him off the leash a little bit, and he's just screaming, and you can tell he's ad-libbing, right?
Yeah, he's sort of like he does this sort of kind of akin to Nicolas Cage, where they sort of
Right.
let him do his thing for just a little bit before they have to bring it back before it goes too far, right? So
yeah, but I don't think they let him have his head enough to, and I kind of understand why, because then it would have become the Crispin Glover show, and that's maybe not what they want to make, right? They want to make
right.
So I could feel that struggle a little bit, and just personally, I would have rather seen the Crispin Glover show, but I can kind of understand why they didn't do that. But I suppose other than that, I mean, there wasn't enough. I suppose there wasn't enough in terms of like, there wasn't much gore at all, was there?
Yeah, I think it wasn't. I don't think they were going for that. I mean, you could tell that this. I mean, Glenn Morgan was obviously trying for a Tim Burton type thing, and Tim Burton wasn't really ever about gore either, right? It's about just like the
Yes.
kind of the. It was like the kind of the dark kind of how would you put like the Tim Burton of the 80s and 90s, like a darkly comic
Yes,
kind
like
of
modern
take.
gothic or something like that.
Yeah, modern gothic. Yeah, so I think that's what he was going for. He wasn't really going for the horror gore. He was just going for the
Yeah.
gothicy kind of dark humor, which I think he kind of got, but uh, I don't think that. Yeah, I don't think he was going for gore. That wasn't the
Right.
idea. So
I wonder if it might have, again, this memory playing tricks on me. I there's a small spark of a memory there. Maybe I seem to remember at some point a Willard remake started life as a Tim Burton project, like something that Tim Burton might have wanted to. You can kind of see it, right?
it seems like something that he would have wanted to do at that time, right? So,
yeah, absolutely. And then it ended up, and that would kind of make sense, I suppose, that if it started in that kind of realm, and then it took over. But no, I didn't hate it either, but I was just I don't know, I just a slight missed opportunity. I felt like if there's something not quite, like, it's not, even if without the gore, it's not, there's not horrific, and like there's not enough in terms of, you don't actually see that many victims succumbing to the rats, for example. Like, I would have liked to have seen more of the threat.
In the book, is there more victims? Is it like more gory, or
Not so much gore, but there's more, like, he uses his rats. Oddly enough, this is something they don't do in the 1970 film either, but they do a little bit in Bane. Is he uses his rats to go out and like commit crimes and stuff. But they're like, he doesn't do that in Bane either, but the rats do terrorize the neighborhood more. And ending up in and because he in the book as well, he becomes known as the Rat Man, and there's like the police get involved and stuff. But yeah, it's not so much because they're all pretty similar to each other. There's no massive outliers, I don't think. But,
right, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just I would have didn't quite do it for me, I have to admit.
No, yeah, I mean, I didn't, I was I'd seen it, I think probably when it first came out 20 years ago, whatever. So I think it was I didn't mind revisiting it, and I was like, oh yeah, I kind of forgotten all about this movie, but it was, I had a nice time revisiting it. It was,
I certainly wouldn't say like, oh, the original was so much better either.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I haven't seen. I might go back and watch the original someday, but
Yeah.
I'm not
Bad.
Bean and Ban as well.
Slightly more interesting, I think.
Right? Yeah. But I mean, were you humming Ben to yourself for the next couple hours after you watched the movie?
I hum Ben to myself most days.
So it's just a normal day for you, right?
Yep.
Great.
Okay.
All right.
There we go.
Anything else? Anything else about rats? Rat Man?
Yeah, we are out of here. I'm gonna go get some cheese.
All right. Same rat time, same rat channel. See you next time.